So we got an email this week from Zinzi on a critical issue, and Zinzi wrote to us, and I've edited it a bit just for brevity. But Zinzi writes, I've recently been paid a dread disease benefit from work. I got a diagnosis of multiple sclerosis, and although I've tried to rein in my spending, I'm still spending it. I know I should save it. Somewhere where I can't see it, because if I see it, I will spend it. I've opened a fixed savings account with my bank, but the problem is I can see the money every time I open the app. Don't open the app, Cincy. Fact of the matter is, I don't know where to start with the saving and preparing for the future. I'm thinking of opening something with Satrix, but no one knows enough about it to advise me and put my mind at ease about investing here. Even the emails from the staff don't help me much, and I saw Boller World's Triple BE shares, and I'm thinking of going that route too. Please help me, or at least guide me with the money saving and investing tips, and make more of it. But apparently hospital bills could skyrocket with MS, and I'm just trying to live here. It's a good question, Warren Ingram. Explain to me, please, very briefly. Life cover is easy. You die and life money is paid out. Is there a difference between critical illness cover, dread disease cover, and disability cover? Are they three parts of the same thing, or they're three fundamentally different things?
Yeah, so there's quite a big difference between the disability cover and the other two. So let's look at this one where Zinzi's got MS, and it might be early stages. So that won't stop Zinzi from working and being able to generate an income. And if it's a particular job that doesn't require travel or something like that, where there might be a time where Zinzi can maintain the job that's always been done. But if that condition then deteriorates and causes the person not to be able to work at all anymore, then you might find a disability income kicks in as well.
Okay.
So
Okay, so critical illness and dread disease, same thing.
I think so, yeah.
Okay, I mean, they seem close enough. Disability, if you become disabled and you've got disability cover, you should be paid for that disability. But a dread disease doesn't necessarily mean that you're about to die. It just means that at some point in the future, and it may be 6 months, it could be 6 years or 16 years, at some point you're likely to get ill because of you carrying this dread disease. And MS is one of those dreadful degenerative illnesses. That means you can probably function right now and spend the money right now if you don't put it away. And that's the risk here that Zinzi faces, right?
Exactly. And I think that's the trick here is that, I knew nothing. I'm definitely not a medical person, but, looking at Dr. Google, one of the things they say about MS is that it shortens the average lifespan of a person by 5 to 7 years, which is horrible, as you said. I mean, it's a dreadful disease, but it doesn't materially change, someone's life expectancy. So if we say, that a person can die at age 83 is the typical life expectancy, then we're talking about, let's say, age 75. That's a heck of a long time for someone who gets diagnosed with this at age 30, or 35. And they've got a long time to live off their money. So that's the trick in this whole thing is, it's not the same as getting a retirement payout when you are 65 and have another 20 years to live. It could be another 40 years or 50 years of life.
However, with a dread disease, you may get ill sooner, you may get ill later, and the importance of preserving that payment that comes out. This isn't pocket money. This isn't lifestyle money. This is money that is designed to help you cope with the consequences of this dread disease.
Exactly, and I think that was the thing. When I was reading this email, that gave me real kind of chills. Is that here's a person who might well, be able to generate an income for a period of time, but we also know, will have a limited career to generate money, and then Zinzi starts with talking about the controlling of spending and not being able to control that, and this is the most critical money that's around. So my view is, the need to preserve the money is massive, and then secondly, to protect it against inflation. and then thirdly, to try and grow it at a rate faster than inflation, but in a safe way, and still try to generate an income stream on the day when that's required. So the requirements of this money are enormous, and trying to kind of meet, 4 or 5 different competing needs at the same time, means that the one thing Zinzi cannot do is spend this money now. I mean, that's just, it has to be absolutely controlled.
But the temptation.
I know you're going to call me the Grinch, but
no, not at all. No, I'm so with you on this one. I'm so with you on this one, and it goes down to the purpose of critical illness cover. Gail sent a very agitated SMS to us this evening saying her husband's policy, he was looking at the small print, he hadn't been tipped off, the advisor hadn't told him this, but he was looking at the policy as everyone should, and seeing that this critical illness cover expires at 65, and she finds this unfair. Because, understandably, the risk of critical illness, the risk of getting sick increases as you get older. But it goes down to what the purpose of this kind of insurance is. And the purpose of this kind of insurance is to give you cover during your working life in case you're unable to earn an income. And by the age of 65, insurance companies have worked out the vast majority of people, one, become too high a risk, and many people are scaling back at that point and probably don't need this kind of cover to replace income.
100% right. And I think, you might find there, for example, that's where the detailed difference between, dread disease and critical illness might kick in, because dread disease will probably cover things like cancers, and that might extend beyond 65. As you're kind of surmising, I'm not a life assurance expert on this side, but I think the point here is, this cover is really there to help you, when you are not able to generate an income stream and you're not disabled. Yeah, and that's the trick here. So you can walk around, you can function, but just not at the optimal level that you need to be able to maintain a career at a high level.
All right. So what then does Zinzi do with this payout? I don't know how much it is. Let's say it's 100,000 rand. Just for the sake of simplicity, give it a number. 100,000 rand. What happens to this 100,000 rand? She seems skeptical about putting it into markets. She's happy to put it into a fixed interest bearing account, but hates the fact that it's accessible. But it's also willing. She's hearing things about triple BE shares, and she qualifies to go for the Barlow World scheme. Maybe she should put it there. There's a plethora of opportunity.
Yeah, the problem of choice, which faces a lot of us. And so I think the starting point here always will be the long-term objective of the money. And in this case, we know what that is. That is, we need to try and protect it against a permanent loss. And that for me is the critical point here. In other words, you can't go and put all of the money into one share. It doesn't matter what the share is. It doesn't matter that it's a triple B scheme, and it's not the point of what's the underlying company there. It's just a case of saying that you have to spread the risks of this money across a range of different shares, and potentially a range of different other kinds of investments, like property companies, like government bonds, corporate bonds, and shares. Because the one thing you can't do here is take too much risk by concentrating investment on one type of company, or one type of share, one type of bond only. It has to be nicely spread. So when I look at Zinzi's age and then the time frame that this money would be required to kind of continue growing, I would say that you're looking at about 60% of this money at the least, 60 to 75% should be in shares, and we'll talk about how you get that share exposure now, but just as an asset type, it should be in shares, and then the balance can be in cash, government and government bonds and property companies.
So you should put it into something like a balanced fund. I mean, balanced fund, and a more aggressive balanced fund perhaps than a general equity fund, or into a money market account.
100%. So if Zinzi's looking for something really, that will kind of tick all the boxes without having to manage something on a continuous basis, then in the unit trust world, this category of unit trust is definitely the balanced category. There are a range of different unit trusts, on offer in the balanced category, but that will meet that asset mix that I'm talking about. And over time, what you would expect is that, kind of a good, just a good, well-managed balanced fund should give you around about 5% above inflation, growth over a 10 and 20 year period. And I know every single listener is probably saying, well, I haven't had that from my balanced fund for the last 5 years. I understand that, but that last 5 year period is not really typical of what happens in our markets over long periods of time. So So a balanced fund would work equally well. And then, Zinzi was looking at Satrix, and for example, that's also something that you can do, because there are exchange traded funds and unit trusts that track indices where you can do the same thing. So you can say, well, I'll take 60% of my money and put it in the all share index, tracker fund, and 40% in the all bond index. If you want to rather go the exchange traded fund route, than having one unit trust only. So there are options there. And I think the important thing here is, someone phoned us the other day to say, Warren said we should be 60% in shares and 40% in bonds, and I'm in unit trust, so I'm not. This is ridiculous. And the point here is, remember, unit trusts can buy shares and they can buy bonds and they can buy property and the like. So it's not that when I say you need to be in shares, that you must now go and choose individual shares. You can buy shares inside an exchange traded fund or a unit trust.
Yeah, that's the point. I mean, it's about equity exposure, which is a horrible jargon term for buy shares. Buying shares can be done through multiple channels. And for a lot of people, it's a scary place to be, Warren. But I mean, more terrifying than the taking the step of going to invest, more terrifying is the prospect of the illness catching up with you. And you had a great time. It was fabulous. The holiday was brilliant. The shoes were comfortable, but they're worn out now. You've got a photograph of you wearing the nice shoes. You've got a photograph of you on the holiday eating a pineapple that's sort of been peeled by a guy on a beach. Yet you've spent the money. And now you are ill, and the consequences of that illness have caught up with you, and you failed to make provision because that was the purpose of the money. And it's why you wisely took out the cover.
Exactly, and I think that's the trick here. So once you've got that portfolio of investments and the money then is far away from your bank account, make sure that you don't draw more, especially at this age, more than about 5% or so a year from that investment. So if it's 100,000 rand,
and try not to draw anything.
Yeah, but if there's a point where you need that money because you can't draw an income anymore, then the number when you're young is no more than 5% of the capital in a year, and so if you work that out, that's not a heck of a lot of money on 100,000 rand. So it really is a case of saying draw as little as you can. If you can delay drawing any money in the beginning, that's great, because then this money can grow on itself, and the money can make money babies. I think that's the one ad, and let it keep doing that for as long as possible before you start drawing on it. But this can't be the handbag or the holiday fund. This is the lifelong income generating fund.
Warren Ingram from Galileo Capital. Sober discussion this evening. Zinzi, I hope that helps. I really do hope it helps. And thank you for asking the question. If you've got questions for us, send them through to us. Let us have your questions on issues of personal finance. Not where to make a fast buck, not how to make a fast buck, not, how many Bitcoins should I buy? Because Warren will slap you. He's a nice guy. He's quite placid. But he went to boxing lessons. I'm just warning you. It's only fair that we do that. Warren Ingram from Galileo Capital.